Oh yeah, safety's the new sexy. Welcome back for another Saturday episode of the soon-to-be Turbo KMiata. Today we're going to handle fueling. On this car I've got RDX turbo injectors. They're 410 cc's. And they're good enough to run NA with E85, and that's it. Yeah, I'm not going to pull 400 horsepower out of those things. It's just never going to work. So I need to upgrade my fuel pump, which is currently a DW DHWorks 200. My injectors, which are currently 410 cc's. And I'm going to move my fuel pressure regulator and all the fuel lines over to the other side of the engine bay. In order to do all of this, I got to give a huge shout out to Flowforce. You saw us install their rear brake kit on this same car. A really sweet kit. I love it so far. I've had no issues with it. And on top of making brake kits, he also does injector stuff. His big market is Miatas, and this is the first K series kit to run bigger injectors. So what we've got here is a set of 750cc injectors, which Nigel will send balanced. He even sends you this little slip that shows you, the flow rates of each. And so it comes with injectors, injector top hats, O-rings for the top of these, super lube, everybody's favorite, because you want to lubricate your injector O-rings before you ever install injectors. And then he also sends a plug and play little pigtail harness. So this side plugs into the injector here, and if you have a stock K series injector harness, this side will plug into the existing harness. All in all, probably a 15-minute install if you are just doing injectors. Since I'm running RDX injectors, I have a different harness. It's like the Toyota plug or something like that. So I'm going to have to cut and splice, which isn't a big deal. But this kit on a K-series, a stock K-series, would be 100% plug and play. And it would be fantastically easy for me to install, which is awesome. So if you're looking for injectors or fuel pumps or anything like that for your Miata, he's got kits all the way up to 960 cc's, and he can also get you fuel pumps and anything else, LS coils, like entire coil kits that I know two of my friends are running right now, and they work great. So on top of that, I also need to upgrade my fuel pump. Right now I've got a DHWorks 200 in the car. This is a DHWorks 400, which Nigel also sourced for me. You can get these from DHWorks. They're not an off-the-shelf item. These are custom made. This is a 400 liter per hour, or I guess 430 liter per hour fuel pump. It's going to be way more than I need for 400 horsepower, but I'm kind of just trying to make sure I have everything. This should be more than enough, and if I ever decide to go for more power, probably down the road, I won't have to upgrade this again. So thanks to Flowforce. All of this stuff was sourced through him. He did send me a set of these to prove them out. We're going to try and make 400 horsepower on these at 60 psi of fuel. Kit is going to go live hopefully today. The link's going to be in the bio to his website, so definitely go check him out, hit him up. Incredible customer service. To move my fuel system over, I've also got DHWorks fuel line. This is legit stuff, not your Amazon cheapie that I used to buy. And then I bought, since I'm not sure what I'm going to need, I bought all sorts of fittings. So I've got 290s, 245s, 2 straights, one 180, because I doubt I'll need more than one. And then these are little line spacers, so you just clip this over the line and it holds 2 lines together. And then I've got these little bulkhead fittings that adapts your stock fuel line to an AN6 fitting. So it's what I've got right now in the car, and I'll show you that in a second. But since I got to move it, I can't reuse those. So yeah, let's get to it. The first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to show you guys kind of what the fuel system looks like, and then I'm going to tackle the fuel pump because that's quick and easy. And then I'm going to go through this, which is going to be a gas-covered mess. So on a stock Miata, the exhaust is on the driver's side. And now that this is a K-swap, the exhaust is on the passenger side, which is all fun and games. I had fuel lines routed here all last year, and the downpipe ran like right here. So it's kind of close, but now that I'm going to go turbo, the downpipe is going to be that much hotter. And I need to move these fuel lines and all of this fuel stuff over to that side. So what I have right now is the 2 hard lines coming out. One's the send, one's the return. Those bulkhead adapters that I showed you earlier are right here. And these are just AN lines into a flex fuel sensor, which I'm going to delete for the time being. My fuel lab pressure regulator, and that runs over to the fuel rail over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all this stuff out, and I'm going to tap into the fuel lines like under the passenger seat under the car, far away from the exhaust, and then I'm going to run AN lines, which are flexible, over the top of the bell housing and have them come out over on this side. And I'll put the fuel pressure regulator up here on the firewall, and then I'll run, the lines from here, run them down, run them over top of the transmission, and that should keep it as far away from the exhaust as possible. I don't want to boil my fuel in the exhaust lines. It sounds like a really bad time. So I got to do that. It's going to be a bit of a project, probably going to take me a couple days. For this episode, hopefully, we're going to swap these injectors out. These are RDX Turbo 410 cc's. We're going to swap out the fuel pump in the back, which we're going to do first, and then we're going to work on this fuel setup. So stick with me, and we'll get going on the fuel pump. So here's the fuel pump as it sits in my car. Super nice and clean because it's been sitting in fuel forever. So this is what we're going to replace it with. We're going to take this filter off, which I've done a how-to on this. It's in an older episode from last year when I installed this pump. I'm going to time-lapse you through taking this off, seeing if it fits. Hopefully it does. But yeah, here we go. So the 400 is not plug and play, obviously just based on the size difference between the two. Here's the 200, here's the 400. It's way longer, probably by 3/4 of an inch. So originally I thought I'd have to push it down so that this could fit in the collar, which I can grab for a second. So that this end would fit in the sending unit collar here. Obviously that would put this really low in the tank. I would sit somewhere around here, and after looking at some pictures online, that's not how we're going to do this. So they send you a new base adapter plate, so this goes on here. So that tells me that they want this is supposed to bolt up on the bottom here, just like this. So the only way to accomplish that is by using the rubber hose that they send and bridging these two together like this, hose clamp on either side. So I took this piece here and cut it off with a cutoff wheel after making sure this had no gas on it. If you do this, make sure you clean it off with brake clean, let it all evaporate, and it's dry. Otherwise, the second you start throwing sparks, you're going to have a little fire in your hands. So I cleaned it out with some brake clean, let it dry, chop that off, kind of ground it down so it's not going to cut the line or anything like that. Made sure the inside was clean, and then I ran brake clean through both ports. This is the return, this is the send, just to make sure there's no debris in there that's going to clog the filter up. So now what we're going to do is we're going to put this line on. We're going to take this cap off, put this line on here, fix this to the height we want, and then we're going to bolt this guy up to the bottom here. I might put the filter on first. They send this filter sock. So this is what, it's like a pre-screen filter. I have soft jaws for my vise, so I just held this in the soft jaws, put this on top, and took my rubber mallet, you can see the little marks here, and just tapped it in. It did not take a whole lot of force, but I couldn't do it by hand. So if you're going to do this, just light taps with a hammer. You're not trying to break it, so Be gentle on it. And then now this will slip in here like that. But before we do that, actually, we got to put this fuel hose on. Okay, so the fuel pump is in, tighten all the hose clamp stuff. There's no real spot. The original rubber band uses this hook right here, but since we're not using that, we're just going to use this guy, and we're going to tighten the bejesus out of it. Once everything is tight, you're going to want to do a fit check. I'm seeing an issue right here already of the plug interfering with this, so I might just bend this over a little bit and out of the way. Yeah, it shouldn't be too hard. But you can see maybe you can't see it, but there's a gap right here between the rubber line and this old shelf that I had to cut. So that's not going to rub through. This is tight. This is tight. Everything down here is snug and tight. This is just the return line. There's nothing really important running through there. Gas is just going to dribble back in, especially with how much we're going to use. There's not going to be a lot to return. So I'm going to figure this guy out here. So the pump is bigger, so the plug that they send you can see when the wires will be on the other side, it's still going to interfere because it's hitting that plug right there. So it's never going to tell me that the tank is empty. Might not be a huge deal. I don't know how much it has left in travel. Let's see. Yeah, so it'll probably stop at like quarter tank, and I want full travel range. So I think I'm just going to take a pair of pliers right here and just bend this over a little bit, or then maybe bend this end. So if I bend this out, I'm going to want to bend this back in over here so it's in the same spot, just to kind of snake around the fuel pump. So now there's plenty of space. We'll have to check up travel, but let's plug this in. So I'll end up zip tying these lines. Actually, these lines will run back over here. I will tie these off. I got some metal zip ties or something. So there you go. Full range travel without hitting the sensor, and this is more or less in the same space. I never run my car below quarter tank, but I don't want to kind of half-ass this while I have it out, so this should work. And next we got to figure out wiring. So I'm gonna have to look this up a little bit. This is the stock plug that plugs into the fuel pump, and this is the side that runs up here, which runs out to the connector up top and tells you when it wants fuel and whatnot. So there's two wires here. There's a blue and a black, and there's a blue and a black right here. So that's all great, but what's this black? It looks like a slip fit connector for something. I don't know if it's just a ground terminal, so I gotta look this up. All right, so there you have it. I did put a zip tie in here. This is bolted up as a ground to here, which grounds it to this, which is grounded to the chassis. So extra ground should work. And then I double checked with where the zip tie is that this has full clearance of travel, not to hit anything. So that's a DeechWorks 400 fuel pump install. The one last thing that we're going to have to do at some point, I might not catch it on camera, is my buddy Matt's going to come over and we're going to run the power wire from the relay on the K-swap conversion harness to this plug, so that we're not using the stock little wire. It's a bigger power wire because this has more power draw. But yeah, this is ready to drop in as it is, so I'm going to go do that and close off my fuel tank because it smells terrible in here. So with the fuel pump in, the next easy-ish thing to do, I guess it is easy. The next easy thing to do is to swap out these injectors. First thing I have to do is assemble the new ones. So the injectors he sends are, I'm not sure what they come off of, but he sends these little machined caps that go on top that act as a spacer to make them the right length to fit in this stack up here. So we're gonna leave these in here for now. I'm gonna turn you guys around and run you through assembling those. I'm not gonna touch the wiring just yet. I'm gonna do that once they're in here. The wiring harness is over there, so it's not like they need to go together. I hopefully can just depin and repin, but for now, we are gonna go assemble some injectors. So this is everything that comes in the kit from Flowforce. So what you have here is these are the plug and play swap connectors, which I don't need right now. We'll touch on those in a minute. This is, obviously what your injector looks like once I get these caps off it. So here's your injector. That's where fuel goes out, fuel goes in, and this plugs into your wiring harness. So these are too short as it sits for the K-Series rail. So we'll take one of these guys. This is just a cap that's going to sit over top of this O-ring here. And when it's all compressed together, it essentially makes the O-ring, or the injector, taller. So this stack up height is what we need to fit inside the fuel rail on the K-Series. So that's where this comes in. It's a really nice anodized aluminum piece. And he sends it with super lube like we talked about earlier. So to assemble these, it's really easy. We're just going to want to take a little bit of super lube here, dab it on your finger, and you're going to want to lubricate this O-ring. And then just for good measure, I'm going to put a little bit inside of the anodized cap here. Doesn't take a lot. The risk is if you don't do this, the O-ring will get stuck, and whether it's the pinching or the rolling, it's going to put a tear in this, and you will get fuel leaking everywhere. And then you got to find new O-rings and everything. So the fix is to lubricate, and then you can see how easy that just slid right on there. So that was perfect. Could not have asked for a better fit than that. And then the next part is these O-rings that he sends individually in the bag. So same deal, take a little bit of lube. And we're just gonna lubricate that guy up. This might be a little tricky because it's gonna be slippery now. But we're gonna pop this right over the end there. And there's your new injector seal. So this will now bolt right up to the fuel rail after you lubricate this side, because same reason. And this is gonna be, once you do all four of these are gonna be your new injectors. Super easy. If you're just using these on a K-swap with a regular injector harness, this would take, again, 15 minutes to install. Everything slips together really nice, really great product. I'm a big fan of supporting companies that make good parts, not just supporting companies because they support or want to, work with us and support us. Both Dylan and I will never lead you guys down the wrong path for parts. We're going to back up everything. If I'm comfortable to run it on my car, I will say it's a great product, right? I don't put bad parts on my car. So these are no exclusion to that. This is a great product. Nigel's great. Everybody else at Flowforce is great. Customer service is fantastic. The parts are great. Hands down recommend these guys. And for anybody else we work with in the future, it'll be the same. So there's all four assembled. That took me all of probably 2.5, 3 minutes. They're all ready to go in the car. I'm going to take some pictures for Nigel before and after when they're installed, so I'll do that right now. But super easy, super nice, super high quality. Everything went together as planned. I didn't have to fight anything. I've assembled pieces where I've had to, before putting them together, I've had to do final touches on aftermarket stuff, because a lot of times aftermarket parts don't fit. In this case, everything's perfect. Everything's snapped right together. Super satisfying to assemble. I would honestly, if this was my job, assembling these things all day, I'd be super content. Really nice parts. Can't say good enough about them, and I'm really excited to put them in the car and see how they perform. We're trying to hit 400 wheel on pump gas on these. They are 750cc injectors, and at 60 psi from the fuel pump, we should be able to reach that. If not, Nigel's already said we'll bump up to the 950s, I believe, which will be more than enough, but we're going to see if we can benchmark these to 400 wheel and then move up from there. So let's get these in the car. Well, let's get the old ones out first. So it's literally that easy. 2 bolts under the fuel line, pop the fuel rail off, undo the old injectors, slap the new ones in with some lube, and bolt it all back together. I'm not going to be able to test these out or anything like that, obviously, for another couple months. But for now, they're in place. They should be good. I'm going to be working on the fuel system next, so I'm not going to be hooking that line back up. And actually, that's the next thing that we're going to do today. And for tonight, I guess, the last thing I'm going to do is take this stuff apart here and just pull it out of the car. And then I can kind of plan my routing for when I'm moving it over to the other side. So yeah, let's get to that. Simple undoing a bunch of AN lines, and I'm going to loop the feed to the return just so that there's not open lines to gas chilling in my engine bay. But let's take it apart. This is the easy bit. Before I do any fuel stuff, because I still don't want to crawl on the ground, I'm going to avoid it as long as possible. I have this oil sensor relocation block. So right now there's only one oil feed that I can find on this block. I haven't really done any research into it because I don't care if there's more. My buddy Cam has one in his now Turbo Miata, and it is exactly what I need. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mount this in the engine bay, and it's actually made for Miata, so I'll put the link below for any of you Miata guys that need it. And then we're going to take this guy, which is 1/8 BPST, which is the oil thread adapter for the Miata sensor, and conveniently also the K. This is going to thread into the oil feed where my temp sensor is right now, and it's going to feed oil into, right now it's this one. It's going to be this hole on the side. This is going to be my feed to the turbo. This is going to be my oil pressure, and then down here is going to be my oil temp. And that's going to cover all of my oiling needs just in one little block. So instead of having different sensors in different places and whatnot, it's all in one little sandwich block type thing. And it's going to be cleanly mounted over where my flex fuel was. But since we're A, getting rid of flex fuel for the moment, and B, moving all the fuel system stuff over, I have an unused riv nut over there, so I'm going to reuse that for this guy. Should be perfect. I'm going to add one more riv nut to it so that I can mount both holes. And then I'll mount all this up, and besides the oil feed to the turbo, which showed up today as well, I'll have everything done for oiling, which will be really nice. Kind of a check mark that I didn't think I'd already have done. So let's cut to that once I show you this. So here she is. It is a BorgWarner EFR 7163. I have the upgraded Turbo Smart recirculation valve because after watching Miata Dad's video of the way that the stock recirc valve sounds, I didn't want it. Right now, I'm running the stock wastegate. Now I might upgrade to the Turbo Smart single port, just really for aesthetics. This looks, it's just, I don't know. It could look better. It could look like this. So it is not the twin scroll housing. This is the IndyCar spec. So it's a V-band mount on the exhaust side for the flange on the manifold. It is a V-band for the downpipe, and then these are just your regular silicone clamp fittings. I'm not going to be V-banding those, that's a little unnecessary. Hoping to have this mounted up, or at least the manifold on order in a couple weeks. I'm going to probably end up designing it myself after I 3D print a bunch of things that I like. I'm skeptical about welding it just because of the weight. Big, 4-cylinder or more turbo manifolds have a lot of welding surface area to hold the weight, whereas this doesn't. This is a single flange and a single flange, and if I'm mounting it sideways like this, it's a lot of load on the top weld of both sides, and I don't want to deal with a cracking manifold constantly, so there's a chance, it's probably going to be pretty expensive, but that I CNC one out of a single piece of stainless steel, which would be the strongest. I really wouldn't have to worry about anything breaking. This is it. She's a beauty. I literally ran to the door, and my wife was like, "It's not that cool," and I was like, "Yes, it is that cool, and it is that worth it." I've been waiting 6 years to boost a Miata. I've boosted other people's before. I've driven them before, but to know that my own is gonna be fast is gonna be, it's so sweet. It's the best feeling. And I ordered this a week ago, and it was cool, but holding my own turbo in my own hands, I can't. Yeah, I'm pretty pumped on it. So that's enough about the turbo. I'm going to work on that oil thing while I stare at my turbo on the workbench. Throw you guys in the engine bay so you can see what I'm doing. So there's the finished piece for now. There is the feed line in from the engine side, the temperature sensor, and the oil pressure sensor that runs to the dashboard. This is a stock 90 to 93 sensor. I wanted to retain full dashboard functionality, so I want to retain this guy. So for now, we're going to bolt this back in the car, plumb the feed line to it, and then this part of the oil setup will be done for now. So there's the setup as it's going to sit. Mind the fuel lines, these will obviously be gone, but the feed line is here from the block. I'll try and get a picture where it feeds out later, and then, like I said earlier, oil pressure, oil temperature, turbo feed, and then return, which we did in the first episode, is just going to come out of the bottom of the turbo and just kind of 2 quick little 45 degrees probably into the oil return that's on the front of the timing cover. So I'm going to run wires to these. I've got the wire right here for the temperature sensor, temperature sensor on the bottom. I'm going to try and snake it around so it's kind of hidden. And then the oil feed line is currently zip tied right here. So we'll move all that stuff around so it's nice. The next step that I've been dreading for a while is going underneath the car, cutting the feed and return fuel line, and installing these little adapter brackets so that I can run AN lines from this side up across the trans tunnel and all that jazz over to the driver's side, this side. I'm going to get to this part now. Hopefully I did a good job of draining the fuel lines yesterday. I mean, I blew air through them. There shouldn't be anything left. Still going to wear big goggles, nerdy chemistry lab goggles, the lady who didn't wear goggles once and now she's a seeing eye dog, the pictures you saw in school. Yeah, those goggles. So I don't want to get gas in my eye. I literally just had LASIK and I love being able to see. So we're going to do that. We're going to go underneath. It might be a little tricky because they're so close to the body, so I'm probably going to have to bend them out of the way. Yeah, let's get to it. It's going to be probably pretty hard for you guys to see under there. I'll put new batteries in the light. But yeah, we'll see how this goes. So there you can see how they're going to sit. Those are the old fuel lines that'll go away shortly, and that's the brake line. So these will be tied up like this. I'm going to hook them together with one of these brackets kind of farther down here so that they're all in line, and then I'm going to run AN line from here, which is kind of just farther back than the shifter tunnel by about a foot. I'm going to run that all the way up, so it's going to cross. If the lines are here, They're going to cross over, and then they're going to run up and out that side of the, this is the driver's side, so they'll run out and up there, and then they'll hook right into the fuel rail, or sorry, fuel pressure regulator. Yeah. All right, so here is the final fuel line routing. I didn't record any of it because most of it was just tedious building AN lines. So I switched this guy around, so now the fuel rail spits out of here, runs straight back into the regulator. This is the feed from the tank, and here's the return. Underneath the car is mostly done. I'm literally just waiting. I have to order little hose clamps that I put a riv nut in the chassis, clamp the AN line to, and then bolt that to the chassis. They're tied together and the routing is right. I literally just need to put 2 of those fittings into the body and fuel will be all set. Technically it would work right now, but the fuel lines would kind of flop around and I don't want that. So yeah, that's honestly a wrap for what I'm going to show for the fuel stuff. I'll blast those in when they get here, probably Friday or Saturday. And then over here we finish this guy off. So this is all plugged in. Temperature, pressure, feed, all set. That's really going to be a wrap for this episode because it's kind of a good spot for me to leave off. I don't have any other parts that I need to install that are critical. So there's your fuel setup and there's your oil setup for the K-swap. I need to figure out what I'm going to do for water lines because there's not a water tap port anywhere that I know of on this block. So if you're a K-Series guy and you know, let me know. I'm going to reach out to a couple people and see if they know anything. I just need water feed and return for the turbo, and you know I can make obviously AN lines for it or whatever needs to be done. But yeah, I think next up for me, because that's really all the parts I had sitting on my workbench. The next part is the turbo. That's the other thing sitting on my workbench. The next part's going to be figuring out how to put that on the car. So that might be a bit of a job. So I'm probably going to order the clutch and all that stuff soon so that I can throw the transmission in. It'll be nice to have that all buttoned up. I'm probably going to be done with this build in like, I don't know, a couple weeks from now at the rate that I'm going. I really have to put a new slave in, a new clutch, mount the turbo, and then, well, I'll have to do intercooler and downpipe and stuff like that, but I really have probably already knocked out 65% of it, and right now it's the end of November. You'll see this at the end of December, just based on how fast I've been working and how much backlog I have. But yeah, so I guess really good progress. I don't know what I'm going to do if I run out of content for you guys, so hopefully somebody drops their engine off and I can build an engine for you guys or something like that, but we'll see. So stick around, stay tuned. We'll see you next Saturday when I don't know what we're going to do.